Hey soldiers, inflation is up 9.1%. I'm sure you've already heard. We're going to talk about what you need to do to properly position yourself in this environment, okay? Because we've got inflation up. We've got interest rates that are going up. Jerome Powell is definitely going to raise those interest rates. And we're probably already in a recession. So you've got a lot of challenges out there, but we're going to turn those into opportunities. Stick with this video. Now, before we get into that, let me address a group that is out there on the periphery. They are not soldiers of finance. They're not like us. These people have started to say, Tyrone, you're doom and gloom. You're building a channel on fear. Let me address these people. We are adults. And as an adult, you must realize that the world is not always pleasant. That, again, as an adult, you have to accept that there are adverse conditions in the world. And by accepting that, recognizing that, then you're able to build strategies that will help you mitigate those circumstances. That's how it works in an adult's life. So if you are scared, then watch the channel, because I'm giving you solutions also. We're not just sitting up here crying about what's going on in the world. We are developing solutions that are intended to keep us on the road to financial independence, or maintain the financial independence that you've already secured. Okay? So put your big boy pants on, all right? This is not fear-mongering. This is what's called the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
All right, guys, so you know inflation is at 9.1% year over year. And the one item in there that is kicking that up the most is energy. And that is directly relatable to the president's energy policy, which says, I will sanction one of the world's largest energy producers, Russia, and at the same time, I will not drill in America. Instead, I will run around the world begging Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for oil and leaving the decision up to them. Now, if I'm Saudi Arabia, I kind of like the conditions that are going on now, because oil is more expensive, which means I make more money. But the White House has demonstrated that it has a lack of understanding in terms of simple macroeconomics, so I doubt if they even grasp this concept. Be that as it may, energy is the main driver for the situation we find ourselves in right now with this 9.1% inflation. Now, in addition to energy, there are some other items there. Food is up, because food usually needs to be transported to a place, be it a restaurant, be it a grocery store, in order for you to then buy it. And that transportation has costs. We go back to energy. So we've got a lot going on here. Let's go over the wages now. Now, we looked at wages, I believe it was yesterday on the video, and they said month over month, they were up 10 cents. However, BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, just put this information out about inflation, or the Consumer Price Index data, and they're saying that year over year, wages are actually down 3.6%. So we got 9.1% inflation year over year, and we got negative 3.6% wages. So you're in the hole about 13% when you add inflation onto the lack of increase in wages, both year over year figures. Americans are getting poorer. Parenthetically, they just talked about sending another $1 billion to Ukraine. We'll get into that on another video. But that's the wage situation. We went over in great detail the job situation. More Americans are working 2 jobs to make ends meet. Go check the video out from yesterday. It's a companion video to this one. We are breaking down this data because you're not going to get this from the mainstream media. And look, I don't watch mainstream media. You guys tell me if I'm breaking this down in greater detail than your local news is. I believe that I am. All right, so here's what we need to start doing about inflation, okay, in your personal life. If you've got high interest credit card debt, high interest auto debt, you really need to eliminate that. That needs to be a priority. Now, I believe that at some point we will reach peak inflation. But that doesn't mean that after we reach peak inflation, it's just going to fall back down to 2.2%. Absolutely not. In fact, I believe most of these prices will remain elevated, especially if we stay the course with the energy policy that Biden is so fond of, that we talked about a few minutes ago. So these prices are going to remain elevated even if inflation starts to decelerate in its march upward. So what you need to do is you really need to pay off high interest credit card and high interest auto loan debt. And the reason why you need to do this is because that actually is raising your personal inflation rate even higher than this 9.1% year over year. Okay. Let me just go off script for a second. I have mentioned this before, and this is a personal, this is a really personal affectation of mine with regard to cars. There are a lot of hot cars out there. They look very nice, but I will be damned if I'm going to pay $712. That's the average monthly payment for a new car. I will be a monkey's uncle if my grandmother used to say that all the time. I don't know exactly what it meant, but I will be one if I go out here and pay $712 a month. I'm not doing that because when I look at $712 a month, I'm looking at, this could be a payment on a piece of land that cost me somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000. This could be $712 I can put into my business per month. This could be $712 worth of stocks and equities or emergency savings I can put into my insurance policy per month. A whole bunch of things. And then the car depreciates the minute you drive it off the lot. And notice, now I've had a new car before. I've had one. I've had 2 new cars before in my lifetime. And never did they call me and say, hey, Mr. Keys, listen, the car's depreciating, so we're going to go ahead and lower your car payment. That never happened, all right? So these high interest auto loans, buy pre-owned, people, and buy pre-owned such that it gets good gas mileage. Maybe it doesn't look like much riding down the road, but you drive on the inside of the car anyway, not the outside. What do you care how it looks? All right, so get rid of that high interest debt, credit cards, and also the auto loans. You got to work on that because you are increasing your inflation rate with those. We're going to have to lower spending in general. So take a look at all of those. Go through your bank account and look at everything that's coming out. I bet you probably got $100 worth, at least $100 worth of subscriptions that you don't even know about, okay? That you don't even avail yourself of regularly. I can tell you what, we got one car that rarely leaves the garage. Honestly, I take this car out simply to, the mechanic said you got to drive it sometimes. We don't drive it in the winter. And it's got Sirius satellite radio in it. I'm going to get rid of that because, it's only $6, but I'm not in the car. Okay, so it's totally unnecessary. You could be putting this money into investments again. Okay, let's see here. I got a list of things. With that money, you got to focus on acquiring assets or creating assets. And when I say creating assets, what I mean by that is pumping money into your business, okay? A business that you own. If you are entrepreneurially inclined, then understand that a business you own has, on average, better rates of return on your investment than equities / stocks, bonds, commodities, or real estate. Okay, now you can own a business dealing in those things, and then the equation changes. But if you're just a passive investor in those things, understand that your own business, that asset class, has the highest potential rate of return. So take money that you are saving. You looked at that Dodge Charger. That seems to be hot. I see a lot of those. And you said, nope, I'm not paying $800 a month. I'm going to buy a car that costs me $400 a month and invest the rest. Okay, because you very well may need a car. I'm not saying don't buy one. Some of these financial gurus say don't buy a car. I don't understand how that's supposed to work if you live in an area without ubiquitous mass transportation, but whatever. All right, now let's talk about rent inflation. Rent inflation is up year over year, 5.78%. Now, rent usually inflates annually anyway. I used to be a renter, and everywhere I rented, they came at me with an annual rent increase. So it inflated, okay? They're saying that this is the biggest rent inflation in quite a number of years. So you've got landlords that are out there, some of whom are trying to compensate for the rent moratoriums that took place during the whole 2020 thing. And then the landlords, they have to pay more for employment of maintenance personnel, of to acquire the property now that mortgage interest rates are increasing. So when you think about the fact that you have to live somewhere, understand that a 30-year fixed mortgage right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of 6.39% for 30 years. Compare that to the annual increases of rent, all right? And you've got to do the math. These numbers are going to change from block to block, area to area. I don't know your situation, but you may want to just do the calculation to figure out, is renting taking more out of your pocket than owning would? Okay, than buying a house would? Now, sure, there are costs associated with owning a home or a mortgage that you won't have as a renter. Those include a lot of the maintenance aspects of it and the annual property taxes. But if you want to talk about property taxes, actually, they're not annual. They're like every 3 years, at least in my area. You want to talk about that, you got to go to your local politician and, have that conversation with them. All right, so you got to have a roof over your head. What's the most affordable way to accomplish that right now? I think you're going to see housing prices start to fall soon because the demand is not going to be there as the interest rates on mortgages tick up. We've seen that 100 times. Okay, that's nothing new. So I want to leave you with this thought. One thing they never include in inflation is taxes. Now, there are a ton of taxes out there. There's sales taxes. There are, like we just mentioned, property taxes. There are income taxes at your state and local level. Taxes here, taxes there, taxes everywhere. But we always talk about, is inflation a tax? Well, are taxes inflation? Okay, that's just a philosophical question, but it does involve taking money out of your pocket. One last thing, this is the true last thing. I want to go back to the mortgages. So some people say, well, mortgages, the interest rate on a mortgage right now is high. Yeah, it's higher than it has been, but it's lower than it has been historically. Still, okay? Keep in mind, if there is a situation where interest rates do drop, you may be in a position to refinance. You can't refinance a rent and say, okay, I want to pay less because, let's say the landlord refinanced and now they're paying less on the building. They're not coming to you and saying, all right, I'm going to give you a break on the rent because I just got a break on the mortgage. When you are paying a rent, you are paying a mortgage, just not yours. All right, guys, so that's the inflation situation. We are in this for the duration in terms of these elevated prices. Even if energy costs start to come down, we're not going to see a corresponding decrease in overall inflation. These prices are going to remain high, probably for the foreseeable future. So get rid of the interest on, get rid of the high interest debt that you have. Work on that. Get that down, man. Pay some, additional on it so you can get that down. Make sure your car payment doesn't have any prepayment penalties on it, okay? Call your finance company and make sure that's the case because you don't want to put yourself in the worst position. Get rid of those subscriptions you're not using. Make sure you do that. And look at your housing situation and see if the roof over your head is going to cost you less long term if you buy, as opposed to continue to rent and be in a situation where they're increasing the cost of that rent annually. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.